بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 266 to 270. Quran lesson by thinker of Quran, Allama Ahmad Parwez. My dear friends, today is the 17th of August 1969, and the lesson begins from verse 266 of Surah Al-Baqarah, 266. Reminder of the continuity of the previous lesson. The discourse was continuing in such a way that Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, had asked how nations are granted new life. The great responsibility entrusted to me is to blow the trumpet of Israfil in such a dead settlement, to grant this nation a fresh life. But they are not even prepared to listen to me, they run away from me, they do not come near. Kayfa tuhil mauta, 260. What is the method by which these dead ones can be given life? It was said that Ibrahim, peace be upon him, have you seen how wild birds of the jungle are tamed? These people are not more wild or unfamiliar than them. Create such attraction within yourself. Deal with them with such love, compassion, kindness, and affection that gradually they begin to mix with you, become familiar with you. And when this condition develops, then what happens is that such tamed, familiar birds, even if released on distant mountains, will come fluttering and rushing back at a single call. This is the method of gathering unfamiliar individuals around oneself and creating for them the means of new life. My dear friends, for a revolutionary caller, it is extremely necessary to pass through these patient, demanding, and courage-testing stages with great perseverance, endurance, tolerance, and steadfastness. He should not become frustrated, nor feel constrained. It is essential that his personality becomes so attractive. Obviously, these qualities come from nobility of character and maturity of conduct, but along with that, forbearance, steadfastness, and endurance are indispensable. They were gathered around, and now this group was told what they had to do.
Prosperity of livelihood. Without prosperity of livelihood, no community can formulate any constructive program. For this, the first essential requirement is provision of sustenance. No revolution can be brought about, no reconstruction can be achieved until arrangements for bread are made first. For this, expenses are required. In the very next verse, they were told that spending, infaq, is of great importance. This is what you must do. And just as the revolutionary caller was told that this stage is extremely testing of patience, they too were told that this stage is no less demanding of courage. Here, the example of a farmer was given. You see how he prepares the land and then sows seeds in it, meaning whatever wealth he possesses, he mixes it into the soil. Every day he works hard, and every evening he returns empty-handed. Not for 1 day, not for 2 days, not for a month, not for 2 months. For a long period he must continue this effort daily. What is the motivating force that makes him ready every morning to keep working, even though he returns empty-handed in the evening? What is this thing? It is that with which the Quran began. وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. They have certainty in the future.
Difficulty in understanding the Quran. Why do we face difficulty in understanding the Quran? What is the justification for this, and what is the remedy? As I have mentioned many times, one reason we fail to comprehend the Quran is that we have confined its terminology to specific meanings, and we never step outside those boundaries. For example, whenever the word akhira appears before us, our mind immediately turns to life after death, and it does not go anywhere else. These meanings have become so firmly entrenched that no other concept even arises in our minds. It is true that we believe in life after death, and that life is indeed real, but this is not the only meaning of akhira. It is not restricted solely to life after death. Akhira refers to every future. Every breath that comes in a person's life is his akhira. The coming days of his life are his akhira. In a nation, every new generation after the previous one is its akhira. In the evolutionary stages of humanity as a whole, each forthcoming stage is akhira. And then, of course, life after death is also akhira. Therefore, we should not always limit the meaning of akhira to life after death. The question arises, why does the farmer keep working tirelessly, returning empty-handed day after day? It is because of wabil akhirati hum yuqinun, 244. his faith in the future. He believes that after 5 or 6 months, if he labors according to the law of God, prepares the land well, and sows good seed, then after this period of sheer effort, the time will come when, in the words of the Quran, each grain will produce 7 ears, and each ear will yield hundreds of grains. I must point out that in Arabic, the word sabah, 7, does not only mean the numeral 7, it also signifies multiplicity and abundance. Just as we say in our language, I have told you hundreds of times not to do this, or I have explained to you thousands of times, or I have gone there dozens of times. These do not literally mean hundreds, thousands, or dozens. They mean many times, several times. Similarly, in the Quran, sabah conveys the sense of abundance. From a single grain, countless grains will emerge. This is the essence of faith in akhirah, faith in the future. Faith in the hereafter. If a person does not have faith in the akhirah, he cannot see any of his actions bearing fruit. As I mentioned earlier, for the farmer, this is easier. Every farmer has seen year after year that this is how it happens, so he does not need any special conviction or faith. But if it had never happened before, or if in his own lifetime he had never seen it, and for the first time he was told to do this, and then he saw daily that no tangible result was appearing, then he would need firm conviction. In our corrupt society, those who resolve to live with honesty and integrity, except for a few, lose courage after a short while and become hopeless. What happens to them? They are like that farmer who has no faith in the akhirah. He becomes weary of repeated effort, thinking, "What have I gained by being honest? What benefit have I received by being faithful?" Every day brings troubles. Every day brings hardships. Meanwhile, others around him seem to be advancing rapidly. He loses heart, cuts his unripe crop, and throws it as fodder to the oxen. This is a very testing stage, and only wabil akhirati hum yuqinun, faith in the future, can carry one forward. Nothing else can. Now, as a new society is being formed, one must keep giving, keep sacrificing, while facing hardships, enduring suffering, encountering conflicts and clashes, receiving nothing in return, and not knowing how long this period will last. What is the one thing that will keep them steadfast, that will prevent their feet from slipping at this stage? It is faith in the akhirah, faith in the future. Faith and continuous striving. If someone has made continuous effort, then the date palm tree he has planted bears fruit for thousands of years. وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ 2:4. This is the kind of society that is going to be formed, in which, as long as your remaining life lasts, there will be peace, security, comfort, and joys. And the coming generations, it is unknown how many harvests they will reap from the crop you have sown. The date palm tree requires 40 years before it begins to bear fruit, but once it takes root in the earth, it continues to yield for 1,000 years. Even in Lahore, such 1,000-year-old trees exist. أَصْفُهَا ثَابِتٌ وَفَرْعُهَا فِي السَّمَاءِ 1424. These are the seeds that grow into trees whose roots are deep in the earth and whose branches reach the sky. But who can wait 40 years? Only the one who has faith in the akhirah. Otherwise, the simple choice is to plant a banana tree. It gives fruit in 6 months, but only once, and then it is cut down. It does not yield again. This is the example I have presented. What does such a society do then? It chooses the date palm, long-term, enduring, fruitful, because it is built on faith in the future, not on short-lived gains. Concern for future livelihood. The concern for future livelihood always grips human beings. Each one of us here is troubled by thoughts of the future. The honest and upright person in a corrupt society becomes anxious because for the present, he somehow manages to feed himself and his children. But what about tomorrow? In a corrupt society, the insecurity of the future causes people to stumble. They worry, what will happen tomorrow? Who will care for me? Who will look after my children? The Quran establishes a society, and once it is formed, that society declares, نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُكُمْ وَإِيَّاهُمْ 6:151. We are responsible for your sustenance and that of your children. But such a declaration can only be made when that society has been fully established.
During its formation, the effort, struggle, and courage required may be such that those who labor may not themselves reap the benefits. From the worldly point of view, what did those who were martyred at Badr receive? Yet the crop they sowed continues to feed even us, who are far less worthy. This is the essence. Keep your eyes fixed on the future. Recognize that today's effort, today's properly structured society, provides immense security for tomorrow.
Quranic example of human-made systems and their remedy. My dear friends, now the verse begins. Come into ecstasy, for the Quran presents astonishing examples. It says, أَيَوَدُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن تَكُونَ لَهُ جَنَّةٌ مِّن نَخِيلٍ وَأَعْنَابٍ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ لَهُ فِيهَا مِن كُلِّ الثَّمَرَاتِ. Imagine the example of such a person, or even your own example. You have flourishing gardens of date palms and grapes, living a life of great comfort. And these gardens are well irrigated, streams flow beneath them, water is abundant, trees are young and fruitful, everything is flourishing. Then it says, وَأَصَابَهُ الْكِبَرُ وَلَهُ ذُرِّيَّةٌ ضُعَفَاءُ. But the man himself has grown old, and his children are still small and weak. فَأَصَابَهَا إِعْصَارٌ فِيهِ نَارٌ فَأَخْتَرَقَتْ. Suddenly one day, a scorching whirlwind comes and burns all the trees to ashes. Think for a moment, what would your condition be at such a time? Such accidents of time can occur. Today, the source of your livelihood may seem completely secured, but tomorrow it may vanish. The Quran asks, what arrangement do you have for such a time? It explains that the effort you are making now, the society you are striving to establish, will be such that no matter how many calamities come, you will have no fear. That society will endure them because it has taken responsibility. Nahanu narzuqukum wa iyahum. We are responsible for your sustenance and that of your children. So reflect, if such a time comes upon you and no such arrangement has been made, what will you do? This is why the Quran urges the formation of a society that guarantees collective security against the uncertainties of life.
Method of protecting oneself before a destructive revolution. The Quran gave an example, and for us, these things are not difficult to understand because we experience them daily. Every day some accident occurs, some upheaval arises, the kind of destructive revolution that overturns even the best arrangements. And then some revolutions come in such a way that, remember, the discourse had begun from 254. So let us go back. It was said, Ya ayyuha ladhina amanu anfiku mimma razaqnakum, 254. O you who believe, spend out of what we have provided you. Right now there is still time. You can contribute for the formation of this society. Do something beforehand. Before an yatiya yawman la bay'un fihi wala khullatun wala shafa'atun, 254. Before such a day arrives, before such an accident occurs, before such a revolution breaks out in which nothing remains with you, no opportunity for trade or business is left, no friend can help, no interception can avail. Such times will come. Today, everything is available. You have means for business. You eat and drink well. You possess much. You have friends. You hold high positions. You are millionaires. You have strong connections and recommendations. Yes, today this is the condition. But the Quran warns, prepare before the destructive upheaval arrives, for then none of these supports will remain.
It is said further, قَبْلِ أَنْ يَأْتِيَ يَوْمٌ لَا بَيْعٌ, 254. My dear friends, our attention immediately shifts to the Day of Judgment, thinking that it refers to that time. But what did Iqbal say? سخن ز نامه و میزان دراز تر گفتی به حیرتم که نبینی قیامت موجود. We keep the record of deeds and the balance reserved for the Day of Judgment, yet the record of deeds is always hanging around our necks, and the Day of Judgment comes with every breath of human life. بحيرتم كنبني قيامة موجود. I am astonished that you do not see the present judgment. The problem is that you close your eyes to the present upheavals, reserving them only for the hereafter. My dear friends, in our era, this present judgment is visible almost daily. A cycle comes and suddenly neither wealth for business remains, nor friends recognize you, nor recommendations work. The Quran says, before such calamities arrive, make arrangements in advance. This is exactly what is being conveyed here.
In those times, flourishing gardens were the economy, date palms, vineyards, fruits. The Quran gave the example that a storm could come and destroy it all. You yourself may become weak and old, your children still small. Then who will provide for them? What a profound truth the Quran presents. It warns us to prepare beforehand, to establish a system that ensures sustenance and security even when destructive revolutions strike.
Insurance in today's difficult era. My dear friends, today if someone suggests that insurance is a good arrangement, objections immediately arise. Strangely, there is no objection if people die of hunger, nor is there objection to begging. This is considered acceptable. It is true that the system which the Quran establishes or prescribes rises far above such arrangements, but that system does not exist in our society, nor have we ever thought about it, nor do we even have its concept in our minds. Therefore, by way of concession, if someone in this society has made some arrangement, that if a time comes when you grow old, your children are still small, and your sources of income are cut off, then what should be done? I do not claim that this arrangement meets the Quranic standard, but compared to having no arrangement at all, at least people of the world have devised something.
Quranic system of nourishment and the complexities of human thought. The Quranic system exists, but in our current society, it cannot even be imagined. Whatever arrangements the world has devised as a substitute, we ourselves shut those doors upon us. Immediately objections arise. This undermines God's attribute of being the provider. He gives to whom he wills. He is the sustainer. He has taken responsibility. I will speak of the Quran later. For now, let me say something that may sound bold. My dear friends, this claim that God has taken responsibility for everyone's subsistence, yet every evening half of the world's population goes to bed hungry. Is this the responsibility of subsistence? Look around you in your own surroundings. When calamity strikes a household, the sole breadwinner dies suddenly in an accident at night, leaving behind small children and a widow with no one to care for her. She has nothing even for his burial, sells household utensils to survive, and in the evening has no wood for her stove. These are facts we must face. Mere devotion or blind faith cannot resolve them. The Quran presents a system of rububiyyah, nourishment and sustenance, but until its features are brought into practice, human intellect and thought remain entangled in complexities that excuse reality instead of confronting it. We say with ease, we have faith in God's attribute of being the provider, but when someone raises the objection, why did that innocent, helpless family go to bed hungry last night? Why was sustenance not given to them? Why did God not fulfill his responsibility of providing? This objection is not against the Quran. The Quran cannot be challenged. These objections arise because we have set the Quran aside, relying instead on human-made beliefs and theories. We claim God is responsible for sustenance. He gives bread to whom he wills. He himself provides what he has destined. And the more intensely someone repeats this, the more we consider him a man of God, one who has great trust in Allah. We say, tomorrow is in God's hands. But the Quran teaches that God's attribute of razakiyah, providing sustenance, manifests through the system he has prescribed, a collective order where no child sleeps hungry, no widow is left uncared for, and no family is abandoned in despair. Blind reliance without establishing that system is not faith, it is neglect. True faith in God's providence means striving to implement his system of nourishment and justice in society. How Allah fulfills his responsibility as provider. My dear friends, listen to what the Quran says. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ 36:47. When it is said to them, spend from what Allah has provided you, from the means of sustenance, for those in need, for the hungry, for those who have no arrangement left for themselves. This is the command. Now hear the response. We often say, Allah is the provider, he will feed them, but the Quran records this reply as the words of the disbelievers. قَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَنُطْعِمُ مَنْ لَوْ يَشَاءُ اللَّهُ أَطْعَمَهُ 36:47. The disbelievers say to the believers, shall we feed those whom if Allah willed, he would have fed himself?
Allah has taken responsibility for their sustenance, and you ask us to arrange their food. Here the phrase Law Yasha'ullahu 36:47 appears, exactly what we often say. If Allah wills, He will Himself provide them. But the Quran declares this to be the saying of the disbelievers. And then it states, In antum illa fi dalalin mubin 36:47. You are in clear misguidance if you think this way. Thus Allah fulfills His responsibility of being the provider through the system He commands us to establish, by spending from what He has given us, by ensuring no one goes hungry. To ignore this and leave it to Allah's will alone without action is described by the Quran as open misguidance. True meaning of divine will.
My dear friends, this is a matter worth reflection. From morning till evening we keep repeating, it is not Allah's will that they should receive. Poverty and wealth are in His hands. Those whom He keeps hungry, He keeps hungry. Those whom He gives in abundance. Why should we arrange food for the hungry? If they were meant to receive bread, God Himself would have given it. If He willed, He would have fed them. Why are we being asked to do it? The Quran declares that this is the saying of the disbelievers. It says they are in dalal mubin, clear misguidance. The disbelievers say this to the believers, using God's will as an excuse to avoid responsibility. My dear friends, what is the arrangement? In the very first word it was said, Anfiku mimma razaqakumullahu. Whatever Allah has given you, whatever you possess, from that which is beyond your own need, keep it open for them. This is what is commanded, and in reply they say otherwise. My dear brothers, this is exactly what is said today, when it is suggested to make arrangements so that no one sleeps hungry at night, and that the vast class differences of poverty and wealth be eliminated. The answer given is, this is dependent on Allah's will and decree. He has kept some poor and made some rich. But see what the Quran says about whose words these are. It declares that God does not directly hand bread to anyone, nor does He directly starve anyone. It is your system through which you deprive them. And for this the command is, Anfiqu mimma razaqakumullahu. You must arrange their sustenance. The disbelievers say, God will arrange it. But God says, you must arrange it. And even today we continue to say, God Himself will arrange it. God says, reflect. Life is being lived with great comfort. Sources of income are abundant, but then old age arrives and small children remain. Neither the old man is capable of earning nor the children. A sudden accident occurs, in whatever form, and the source of livelihood ceases. God asks, think, what will you do at such a time? If someone were to ask us, we would even say to God, O Lord, at such a time, give them bread, for you are the provider. He has indeed said, Khayrul raziqeen. We are the best of providers. The fundamental means of sustenance He has already placed within the earth. These raziqeen mentioned in the Quran are those who, after God has provided the resources, become providers for others through their arrangements. Those who earn more become the raziqeen for those who, despite their labor, cannot meet their needs, or for those who have lost their breadwinner. Thus, God's providence manifests through the system of human responsibility and collective care. My dear friends, if this matter were to be done directly by God Himself, then why would He give the example, think, if such a time comes, then what will you do? We would respond, O Lord, you will do it. What is our role? You created us, you have written everyone's sustenance. If calamity strikes them, you must provide. Why are you telling us to act? But He says, كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمُ الْآيَاتِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ 266. Thus does Allah make His signs clear to you so that you may reflect. He explains matters with clarity, but only those who think deeply can understand. Blind devotion that shifts everything onto God's will, if it were His will it would happen, cannot grasp this truth. Without لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ, without reflection, the reality remains hidden. Those who ponder and reflect understand it. Therefore it is said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu anfiku min tayyibati 267. O you who believe, spend from the good things. Do not sit clinging to false beliefs. These were Magian ideas that God Himself will do whatever needs to be done. But the Quran says, Anfiku min tayyibati 267. Keep open for others what is beyond your own need from the finest and most pleasant things.
Quranic eloquence and solution to global economic systems. Let me continue further. It says, من طيبات ما كسبتم ومما أخرجنا لكم من الأرض. 2:267. What a marvel the Quran is. Just a few words, and within them the whole world is encompassed. There are only two sources, either industry and craftsmanship or agriculture. Industry and craftsmanship, ma kasabtum, 2:267. Whatever you prepare for yourselves, whatever you earn through labor. In this, only human effort is involved. And then, وَمِمَّا أَخْرَجْنَا لَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ, and whatever we bring forth for you from the earth. You have seen how things are extracted from the earth. They emerge according to His system, His laws. Human beings must labor, but the treasures are embedded within the earth for them. The earth and its hidden treasures, these are not the property of anyone. No human being has created them. Today, it is true that we purchase land from someone whom we legally consider its owner. But the real question is, how did he become the owner? They say, he purchased it from someone, or inherited it from his father. But my dear brother, trace it back further. The very first person who declared a piece of land as his property, from whom did he buy it? From which father did he inherit it? The matter ends there. Originally, this claim of ownership is usurpation, and whoever later acquires what was usurped, even if by purchase, is also guilty, for the buyer of stolen goods is a criminal too.
If you take land that does not truly belong to someone, the law requires the seller to prove ownership. In fact, judges annul such contracts if ownership cannot be established. According to our customary laws, we may prove ownership, but can we prove it according to divine law? God is so precise that in ma kasabtum, He refers only to what you earn through your own labor. And regarding land, He uses the phrase وَمِمَّا أَخْرَجْنَا لَكُمْ, from what we bring forth for you from the earth. He emphasizes أَخْرَجْنَا لَكُمْ, we bring it forth for you. Thus, two realities emerge. Human beings labor upon it, but fundamentally the earth itself belongs to God. Even today, you know that land is given for cultivation. One is the landowner, the other is the cultivator. The cultivator receives a share for his labor, and the owner receives his share. This is the division in your system. What does the Quran say? The Quran declares that the owner of the land is God, and you are the cultivators. At the time of harvest, divide the shares accordingly. My dear friends, incidentally, the matter has come up. In our society, we have created this division of Huquq Allah and Huquq al-Ibad. We say there are two categories. Huquq Allah are worship-related practices, prayer, fasting, etc. And Huquq al-Ibad are charity, alms, and so forth. But in the Quran, the term Huquq Allah does not appear at all. This division itself is incorrect. There's one place where the word haqqahu occurs. There, it refers to the right of God. Let us see where it appears, and then it becomes clear where this right goes. It says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَنْشَأَ جَنَّاتٍ مَعْرُوشَاتٍ وَغَيْرَ مَعْرُوشَاتٍ وَالنَّخْلَ وَالزَّرْعَ مُخْتَلِفًا أُكُلُهُ وَالزَّيْتُونَ وَالرُّمَّانَ مُتَشَابِهًا وَغَيْرَ مُتَشَابِهًا. This is about agriculture, about cultivation, gardens, crops, fruits. كُلُوا مِنْ ثَمَرِهِ إِذَا أَثْمَرَ. When the harvest ripens, eat from it. وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ. And when you reap the harvest, give its due right. This is what God's right is. The question arises, who receives this right? To whom should it be given? The harvest has been reaped. Heaps of wheat are gathered. The land was cultivated on sharecropping. The division has been made. Our portion is filled into sacks, and the rest remains. This is His right. But to whom should it be given? The owner himself does not appear before us. The matter then shifts. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, or Surah Al-An'am, it is described that their condition was such that they would say, this portion is ours, and this portion is God's. Yet they themselves consumed God's portion too. They would declare, everything must be done honestly, not by force. God's share is for God, our share is for us. But since He does not come to take it, give His portion to us.
Compensation for cultivation and God's share. My dear friends, to receive His share, there must be God's sanction. I have already said that haqqahu, 6:142, appears only once, referring to God's right, his portion. These are remarkable verses, and indeed, which verse of the Quran is not remarkable? Sometimes out of sheer admiration, one spontaneously utters, Alhamdulillah. Safraq taba qadam, har kuja ke mi nigaram, krishma damine dil mi kashad ke ja injast. Such is the quality of the Quran. It says, Afara'aytum ma tahruthun, 56:63. Reflect upon what you cultivate. Consider deeply the process of farming. And then marvel at the eloquence of the Arabic language, which conveys profound truths in the most concise and powerful expressions. Here the phrase ma tahruthun appears, meaning simply the act of cultivation. It asks, what do? You prepare the land, you sow the seed. After that, what happens? For this it says, A antum tasru'unahu am nahnu zari'un. Is it you who cause the seed to grow into crops, or are we the ones who make it grow? That single grain which multiplies into hundreds of grains and ears of corn, from which trees and crops emerge, is this your craftsmanship, or is it our doing? What a profound statement. The act of ma tahruthun, tilling and sowing, is indeed the work of human beings. God acknowledges, this you do. But then he asks, A antun shazru'unahu, do you make the seed sprout into harvest? Am nahnu zari'un, or is it we who make it grow? Lo nasha'u laja'alnahu hutaman, fadhaltum tafakkahun, inna lamughramun, bel nahnu mahrumun. If we willed, we could reduce it to dry chaff, and you would be left lamenting, saying, we are ruined, deprived.
If his laws did not operate, could you scatter a few seeds and then fill your socks and barns? Without his system, the seeds would perish, turn to dust, and you would beat your foreheads in despair. This is the balance, human effort in sowing, and divine law in growth and fruition. It is said, we gave the water, the rain fell. Listen, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ الْمَاءَ الَّذِي تَشْرَبُونَ? Have you considered the water you drink? أَأَنْتُمْ أَنزَلْتُمُوهُ مِنَ الْمُزْنِ أَمْ نَحْنُ الْمُنزِلُونَ? Is it you who send it down from the clouds, or are we the ones who send it down? Whose law governs this process? Life itself depends on it. All agriculture depends on it. The water we channel through canals or draw from wells ultimately originates from the rain he sends. The surplus is stored in reservoirs, in the form of snow atop mountain peaks. When summer comes and rainfall ceases, the heat of the sun melts the snow, and streams flow past your doors. Tell me, is this your doing or ours? The Quran makes clear, the system of water, its descent, storage, and release, is entirely under divine law, though human beings benefit from it through their own arrangements.
See how the Quran continues to expand the thought. لَوْ نَشَاءُ جَعَلْنَاهُ أُجَاجًا فَلَوْلَا تَشْكُرُونَ. If we willed, we could make all this water bitter and salty like the sea. Then would you be able to drink it or grow your crops? أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ النَّارَ الَّتِي تُرُونَ. Have you considered the fire you kindle? أَأَنْتُمْ أَنْشَأْتُمْ شَجَرَتَهَا أَمْ نَحْنُ الْمُنْشِئُونَ. Is it you who created its source in the trees, or are we the ones who created it? After water, fire is mentioned, the source of heat upon which life depends, crops depend, everything depends. You may gather wood, strike a match, and say, we lit the fire, but the reality is deeper. Within the wood lies the system, carbon dioxide absorbed, oxygen released, combustion enabled. Who placed this property within the wood? Not your match, not your effort, it is our arrangement. The Quran shows step by step how much is truly human effort and how much is divine law. Human beings contribute their labor, but the fundamental processes, growth, water, fire, energy, are all governed by God's system. This is the balance, your share of toil and his share of creation. We gave all this, the earth itself, the laws, the system, the machinery that runs this system, the malaika, are set in place. They carry out the processes. This is our doing, not yours. You labor within it, and we acknowledge that. Our law is, وَأَنْ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. Man is entitled only to what he strives for. Your right is the reward of your effort. but the ownership of the earth, the heat, the water, the agricultural laws, the system, all of that belongs to us. Only the labor is yours. نَحْنُ جَعَلْنَاهَا تَذْكِرَةً. We have set forth these examples so that you may keep them in mind. We accept, yes, the heaps of wheat produced, the harvest gathered. Your share is according to your labor. The rest is our share. You will take your portion, but to whom will you give ours? There, the Quran said, حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ. At the time of harvest, give his due. And when asked, whom shall we give your share? The answer came, مَتَاعًا لِلْمُقْوِينَ. It is for the hungry, for those in need. Deliver it to them. That is God's right, to be given to the poor and the deprived.
Fulfilling God's share through supreme lordship. As I explained from 56:63 to 73, the Quran sets forth the principle. One share belongs to the cultivator for his labor, and one share belongs to the owner of the land, God. This division is presented with absolute justice and fairness. On a small scale, it is illustrated through agriculture, but the principle is universal. فَسَبَّحْ بِاسْمِ رَبِّكَ الْعَظِيمِ 56:74. Therefore, strive on the basis of this principle for the supreme lordship of God. The entire system of Rububiyyah must become Rububiyyah Uzma, the grand system of sustenance and justice. What is shown in the example of cultivation is but a miniature model. The whole of human society should be organized on this foundation. Thus, God's share must be fulfilled not merely in the form of harvest distribution, but in establishing a comprehensive system of divine lordship, ensuring that his law of justice, sustenance, and care governs the entire order of life. Dividing the land of Khyber and the story of Allama Seyroti and the Brahmin's cow. My dear friends, this is the system under which it was said, if you establish it, then in old age, when small children remain, when sources of income are cut off, when an accident occurs, you will not die hungry that evening. Mata'an lil muqween. We have stored everything. This system will not let anyone sleep hungry at night. This is the Rububiyyah Uzma, which the Quran has spoken of. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ, so that you may reflect. Therefore, O believers, keep open your means of sustenance. مَا كَسَبْتُمْ وَمِمَّا أَخْرَجْنَا لَكُمْ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ. Very well, we will give. At the time of harvest, if the owner or his representative is not present, do you know how the division used to happen? The rough grains, the soil-mixed grains, the stony grains, those would go into his sack. The good ones would be kept aside. This is why, when the land of Khyber was divided with the Jews, with non-Muslims, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ instructed that the Jewish cultivators themselves should carry out the division. So it was said, when you purchase something, even when you pay its price, say, this portion we give in the way of God. Now, beggars no longer receive bread from our homes in the morning. Beggars too no longer ask for bread, they ask for cash. In the times when bread used to be given, the beggar who came would be told by the elder lady or the children, there's last night's bread lying there, now he will eat that wheat, give it for Allah's sake. The staying bread of the night was given Allah wase. And the Brahmin had given his cow in the name of Ishwar. That cow was swept away in the Ganges. Great efforts were made from here and there to catch it, but it was not caught. It was completely carried away by the waves. He said, I gave it in the name of Ishwar. It was said that when giving, do not make it such that you start offering things of this kind in our name. What a style the Quran has! When you go to purchase something for yourself, buy it at full price. Do not say that it is defective. It has been said, do not do this. وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. Remember, the one to whom you are giving is not the beggar at your door. He is far greater. غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. He is self-sufficient. Everything is his gift, and he is worthy of praise and gratitude. This act of infaq is like keeping both ends of a channel open. What comes in from one side flows out from the other. From it, only what is needed for one's own requirement should be taken, just as the body's system of nourishment takes what is necessary for survival. What then becomes the obstacle in this path? It is the thought, hold back a little, be cautious, tomorrow calamity may strike. Who will care for you then? Do not give away like this. Think of your children too. In a corrupt society, this reasoning seems valid, and perhaps it must be so. But if the same sentiment dominates at the time of forming a just society, then the system cannot be established. At such a time, those who are the sabaqun al-amwalun must make sacrifices. They must endure hardships, live with scarcity, and bear difficulties.
وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. They prefer others over themselves, even though they themselves are in need. This is the spirit required. True meaning of bukhl among Arabs and the work of Satan. My dear friends, this is the Quran. It says, الشيطان يعيدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء. Satan threatens you with poverty and commands you to indecency. These individual emotions frighten you with need and say, be miserly. This word fahsha in our usage often means obscenity or shamelessness, but in Arabic, its secondary meaning was different. Among the Arabs, even before Islam, hospitality and generosity were considered great virtues, their cultural hallmark. For them, the miser, the one guilty of bukhl, was regarded as the most shameless person. Thus, the fundamental meaning of bukhl is exactly this. Here, the matter is clear. Satan threatens you with poverty, وَيَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ, and then tells you to hoard for yourself. Bukhl is precisely this, to store something only for oneself and not give it for the needs of others. Otherwise, the discussion would go further, but let me say this. The Quran describes the system of salah in these words. إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ 29:45. It restrains you from fahsha, miserliness, selfishness, and munkar, everything that is deception of reason. The Quran says something remarkable here. What is Satan? It is the impulse of individual self-interest, the drive that pulls a person only towards his own benefit. And to justify this pull, the deceptive intellect, aql firib kar, invents countless excuses. First, it provides justificatory reasons, saying, no, you must do this. Mian tu apni nabir, denu hor nalki. Tomorrow, if calamity strikes, who will care for you? Such people cry every day. You must manage for yourself. Then it suggests, gather by every possible means, whether lawful or unlawful. Keep hoarding, keep collecting. These are all forms of selfish emotions for which the deceptive intellect provides arguments and then practical methods. Collect like this, store like that. This entire process is what the Quran calls Satan. It says that at such times Satan will whisper, you will be crippled, you will be left helpless, so keep everything for yourself. In the next verse, the Quran provides the remedy. Here it was said, Wallahu ya'idukum maghfiratam minhu wa fadla. Remember, God's system of rububiyyah guarantees to protect you from every kind of need and to grant you a prosperous life. Whereas individual emotions frighten you with poverty, the system of rububiyyah promises maghfiratam minhu, protection from want. The system to which we invite you, the promise we make with you, is that it will provide you with the means of security against poverty. This is the safeguard against deprivation. True meaning of maghfirah and the quality of protection. In our understanding, maghfirah is often thought to occur only on the Day of Judgment. But in Arabic, maghfirah means helmet, the iron covering placed on the head. It signifies protection. Thus, in the Quran, maghfirah is the provision of protection against poverty. When the fear arises that you will become needy, it teaches miserliness. But God promises maghfiratan minhu, protection from want. The next point is fadlan, that he promises prosperity. If you practice this, prosperity will be yours. This promise rests on the principle, Wallahu wasi'un alim, 268. His vision extends far beyond, his knowledge is vast, while human vision reaches only a few steps and human knowledge is limited. He assures, I see further, I know more, and I guarantee both protection and abundance. Now the point arises that human individual emotions teach self-interest. This is the demand of life at the animal level, preservation of self, the basic instinct. Wherever there is life, preservation of self is its fundamental requirement. Take the tiny life of an ant, place a small straw in front of it, and see how it writhes in agitation. If nothing else, it will bite. Why does it do this? For self-protection, for preservation of self. This instinct is embedded in every living being as the primary safeguard of life. Difference between self-centered intellect and universal intellect. This is the basic demand of life. Intellect teaches it and provides strategies to fulfill this demand. But what does it actually do? Each individual's intellect teaches only the measures for his own protection. It does not teach how to protect others. Even if destroying another brings benefit, this kind of intellect justifies it. What is needed is an intellect that not only provides for your own protection, but also ensures the protection of humanity. This is the intellect the Quran refers to, an intellect that can only be attained through wahi, revelation. And immediately in the next verse, this point appears. يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَمَنْ يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. These arguments that were being presented, arguments of individuality and self-interest, their counter can only be found in the arguments given by revelation. That is where the true wisdom lies. My dear brothers, this is a strange and profound point. One might say, if Satan presents arguments, let him continue, and we could simply be commanded, do this. But notice, Satan's very first act was based on logic. When he refused to bow, he was asked, why did you not? He gave a reason. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. You created me from fire and him from clay. Fire is superior to clay, so it is not proper for the superior to bow before the inferior. This was logic, an argument. Similarly, when the Quran says, يَعِدُكُمُ الْفَقْرَ وَيَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ, Satan bases this on arguments too. He frightens you with poverty and then commands miserliness. If, in response, only a command had been given, do this, don't do that, then obedience might have been possible, but the arguments would remain unanswered. The human mind would not be satisfied. That is why the Quran does not merely issue commands. It provides counter-arguments, wisdom, and reasoning through wahi. This is the true antidote to Satan's logic. See how the Quran presents its reasoning. At first glance, it may seem puzzling. The discussion is about infaq, spending, and suddenly the subject of hikmah, wisdom, appears in between. But look closely at the subtle connection. It says, yes, Satan presents arguments. He frightens you with poverty. He justifies miserliness. In response, the Quran does not merely issue commands. It also provides arguments. It says, يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَمَنْ يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. He grants wisdom to whom he wills, and whoever is granted wisdom has indeed been given abundant good. Thus the Quran places hikmah right in the middle of the discourse on infaq. Why? Because the counter to Satan's logic of fear and selfishness is the divine logic of wisdom and generosity. The arguments of revelation dismantle the arguments of self-interest. This is the deep coherence. Infaq is not blind charity. It is guided by wisdom, the wisdom that comes from God. Book and wisdom. Law along with its purpose. One kind of reasoning comes through revelation, and you know the Quran has described both kitab and hikmah as being from Allah. Both are from Him. What does this mean? Often we mistakenly separate them, taking kitab to mean only the Quran and then searching elsewhere for hikmah. But in truth, both are contained within the Quran. Kitab means law. Sometimes a law is given without explanation, simply announced. From tomorrow, this will be enforced. It must be obeyed, but the heart remains unsatisfied because the reasons are not explained. Another kind of law is given together with its objectives. It explains. Because such circumstances arose, such problems appeared, these measures were taken, but they had shortcomings. Therefore, this new law is enacted so that these issues may be resolved. This explanatory framework is what is called the hikmah of the law. The Quran declares, "We are such lawgivers that we do not act like dictators who impose laws without explanation. We provide both the kitab, law, and its hikmah, purpose, so that you understand why the law was made and what benefit it brings to you." Dictator's law has no wisdom. A dictator has laws, but no wisdom. He does not explain, because every law benefits him, and he does not want to admit that he made the law for his own advantage. His claim is also to be a public servant. But since the law is for himself, he hides its wisdom. When a law is made for the benefit of others, then its wisdom is explained. This situation arose, these problems appeared, these measures were taken, but they had shortcomings. Therefore, this new law is enacted for your benefit. God does not give laws for his own benefit. Inna Allaha laghaniyun 'anil 'alamin. Allah is free of need from all the worlds. Every law is for your benefit. And when it is for your benefit, it is necessary that the law be explained, showing what advantage it brings to you. My dear friends, this explanation is called hikmah. For example, the Quran says, Kutiba alaykum as-siyamu, fasting has been prescribed for you. That is the law. But immediately after it says, la'allakum 3 times, so that this result may come, so that this benefit may be yours. All of these la'allakum are for us, not for him. They explain the wisdom, the why of it, the reasoning behind the law. This is what the Quran means when it says, Yuti al-hikmata man yasha'u.
Al-hikmah is part of divine revelation that guides human wisdom. As I have explained, according to the Quran, this al-hikmah is not ordinary human reasoning, hikmah, but the wisdom, al-hikmah, revealed by God. The Quran has declared it munzal min Allah, sent down from Allah, buka min al-hikmati. This is of the wisdom which your Lord has revealed to you. Thus, al-hikmah is received only through divine revelation. Another reference is 43:63, where it is said about Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, this is the wisdom given through revelation. Therefore, al-hikmah is not the name of ordinary human intellect, because ordinary intellect can be deceptive. It is a force that can be used both ways. A thief's intellect teaches him how to enter a house, steal, and escape, while the householder's intellect teaches him how to protect his property. But al-hikmah is different. It is wisdom granted by God through revelation, guiding humanity toward justice, generosity, and truth. Wisdom is a capacity, and its use determines its value. When a person employs it under the sway of selfish emotions, that same wisdom becomes the source of corruption in the world. It is not the weak or the foolish who exploit society. Rather, it is the clever and cunning whose sharp intellect, when misused, turns into a tool for plunder. This happens when human intellect is subordinated to human desires. For instance, if I visit someone's home and see a watch or a fountain pen lying there, the desire arises to steal it. My intellect then begins to devise methods, how to take it, how to conceal it, how to escape. This is intellect serving desire. But revelation provides another kind of wisdom. It counters temptation with reasoning. If such a practice became common, would anything of yours remain safe? Today, it is a small temptation, but tomorrow, by its momentum, it will grow into something destructive. By taking this object, how much harm will you cause to your own character and dignity? These arguments are given by al-hikmah through revelation. This wisdom does not merely serve desire. It restrains it, guides it, and protects both the individual and society. Concept of human emotions in all religions. My dear friends, this is why the Quran speaks in such a remarkable way. When a desire arises within me, to steal something, to pick someone's pocket, to deceive, to lie, this is an emotion. The mistaken approach has been to think that the cure lies in destroying emotions altogether. Remove the bamboo and the flute will never play. This has been the foundation of mysticism across the world. Whether it is Greek Platonism, Christian monasticism, Persian Magianism, Indian Vedanta, or our own Sufism, the common idea has been that emotions are Satan and therefore must be annihilated. But they never realized that emotions cannot be annihilated. To annihilate emotions, they prescribed renunciation of the world. Yet the one who preaches renunciation still breathes the air of this world, still remains connected to it. Even if he abandons food and drink, he must eventually eat something, even on the 3rd day. And if nothing else, he still inhales the material substance of this world, the air, with every breath. Thus, renunciation of the world is impossible, and so is the annihilation of emotions. The Quran's wisdom lies in guiding emotions, not destroying them. Human emotions can be controlled, but not annihilated. The very foundation of willpower rests upon emotions. Without emotions, there can be no resolve. The desire for salvation, the longing for spiritual elevation, this too is an emotion. A verse of poetry comes to mind. "Wo chahte te na dekhe koi ada mere, छुपे जो मुझसे तो क्या ये भी एक अदा न हुई? The renunciation of desires and emotions, and the desire itself for salvation, is why in mysticism you find concepts like turke dunya, turke ula, turke uqba, and finally turke turk. But these are poetic notions. The Quran does not mislead with such illusions. It declares this idea false. If emotions were such detestable, harmful things that they must be annihilated, then what concept of God would remain? That he creates every child with emotions while we set up factories to destroy them? The irony is clear. As one poet says, Uda a pyare hunar azmaye, tu tir azma hum jigar azmaye. How many emotions will you create while we keep annihilating them? This is mockery. My dear friends, the Quran says emotions are not shirk, nor are they things to be destroyed. Absolutely not. Emotions are a great power for action. Now see how the Quran distinguishes between emotions. It says, فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَكَ. They are following their emotions, walking behind them. The issue is not the existence of emotions, but whether one becomes their follower or their master. Up to this point, it has become clear that following emotions blindly leads only to error. The Quran states, وَمَنْ أَضَلُّ مِمَّنْ اتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ بِغَيْرِ هُدًى مِنَ اللَّهِ. This is the essence of misguidance, that they do not keep their emotions under the guidance of God, but instead bring them forth in opposition to it. Therefore, emotions are not inherently evil, nor are they detestable things to be annihilated. If emotions are kept under divine guidance, they produce beauty upon beauty. But if they are allowed to become rebellious and reckless, subordinated only to deceptive human intellect, then they turn into pure evil. Thus, the cure does not lie in annihilating emotions. The true remedy is to place emotions under the guidance of God. This is the path that transforms emotions into a source of strength, harmony, and virtue.
Aqle khudbin and aqle jahabin. Now we see that intellect appears in two forms. Strictly speaking, it is not two separate kinds, but according to its use, it becomes two. And this is what a person of deep Quranic insight expressed so beautifully. Aqle khudbin digar, va aqle jahabin digar est. What a profound statement. Every person practices his own limited nurturing, even for his children. But the Quran speaks of a higher nurturing. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Praise belongs to the Lord of all the worlds. This is not about individual self-care, but about providing sustenance and growth for all humanity. That is the vision of Aqle Jahabin. In Payam-e-Mashriq and Javid-Nama, it is said, Aqle khudbin ghafil az behbood-e ghair, sood-e khudbinet, na binet sood-e ghair. The self-centered intellect only sees personal benefit, remaining blind to the welfare of others. Vahi haq binende-e sood-e hama, dar negahish sood va behbood-e hama. Divine revelation, however, sees the benefit of all humanity. In its vision lies the prosperity and well-being of everyone. This is the difference. The Quran declares, Yuti al-hikmata man yasha, wa man yuti al-hikmata faqad utiya khayran kathira. My dear friends, this is that wisdom, Aqli Jahabin, which sees the welfare of all. Satan represents the reckless intellect, which thinks only of the protection of one individual's desires, rebellious against revelation. But the wisdom given by God is the one that establishes Rabbil Alameen in practice, guiding humanity toward collective prosperity. Understanding divine revelation requires the quality of ulu al-bab. See what the Quran says further. وَمَا يَذَكَّرُ إِلَّا ulu al-bab, 269. But this matter can only be understood by those who use their intellect. Even the arguments given here are not to accept blindly. The Quran says that these arguments must also be examined through reason. Yet for intellect it uses a beautiful word, al-albab. This refers to those who reach the depths of understanding, not those who remain on the surface. This is the essence. Arguments must be answered with arguments. The arguments given through revelation require intellect and reflection to comprehend. The Quran says, لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. This is what can restrain you from error. The discourse flows beautifully, and then it says,
وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن نَفَقَةٍ أَوْ نَذَرْتُم مِّن نَذْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُهُ. Remember, whatever you spend, whatever vow you make, Allah knows it. These are like seeds you place in the soil, in circumstances where the system has not yet taken shape, and you continue to give without receiving anything in return. Do not think that it goes unnoticed. Often the human desire arises that if a donation is made, it should be recorded somewhere, so that it is known I have given. This is an emotion, but the Quran says, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُهُ. Do not say it has gone unnoticed, that no one saw it, that it entered no record. It is in our knowledge. Remember this.
Concept of vows, nadr, in the light of the Quran. Here, 2 points appear. وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن نَفَقَةٍ أَوْ نَذَرْتُم مِّن نَذْرٍ 2:270. Whatever you spend, that is the literal translation, and whatever you give in the form of a vow, nadr. Now here comes the difficulty in our understanding. The Quran is in Arabic, but in Urdu or Punjabi we take nadr to mean making a vow or offering something to God. Even if one does not fully grasp it, one hears in daily life, nadr Allah, niyaz Hussein. These are vows people make. But in practice we have fallen further. Instead of vows to Allah, people go to graves and shrines, making vows and offerings there. The Quran says, whatever you spend or vow, Allah knows it. The translation of nadr is vow to Allah. Now here arises the issue. People say it is written in the Quran. Yes, in Urdu or Punjabi usage, the meaning is taken as vows and offerings. But in the Quran, the concept is not what has been shaped in popular culture. The Quran's nadr is not the same as the ritualistic vows at shrines. It refers to what is sincerely dedicated to Allah, and he declares, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُهُ 2:270. Allah knows it.
Story of those who make vows. The story of those who make vows is quite strange. Have we ever paused to think about what actually happens according to our own concept? If I gain benefit in some matter, I say I will make a vow to Allah. Leaving aside shrines and saints, let us assume it is to Allah alone. I say, if this happens, then from the 1,000 rupees I will give a portion in his name. If he fulfills it, then I will give. But if he does not, then what? Then nothing. In other words, we are trying to get work done from him, and if he does it, then we will pay. He too accepts this, as if saying, all right, then give later. There used to be a wise generation among us who clarified this matter. Let me explain what vow makers actually do. A minstrel's bull went missing. He said, "Oh, 11 saints, if the bull is found, I will give 11 rupees in offering." Still not found, he kept searching. Then, "Oh, 17 saints, if it is found, I will give 17 rupees." He kept making vows, one after another. Someone asked him, "Your bull is worth 20 rupees, but with all these vows you've promised 150 to 200 rupees. What will you do?" He replied, "If the bull is found, I will give all of them a small portion." This was the reality of vows. Among us, it was said, take the fee in advance, like a doctor's fee, because if you delay payment after the work is done, no one pays. Like the fare for crossing a river by boat. If you do not pay before boarding, once you reach the other side, what can they do? You are already across. Similarly, a doctor's fee must be taken before treatment, because if the patient dies or recovers, afterwards there is no way to collect. This is what the wise people said, take it beforehand. And this is what vows in our society really are, a kind of deferred payment, a promise of reward after the work is done, which often never materializes.
Nadr means a voluntary offering in emergency situations. My dear friends, this is something worth listening to carefully. These practices have become so common among us that we rarely stop to think. Whoever tried to reform our society thought only this far, that making vows at graves and shrines is wrong, but making vows to Allah is correct. They never paused to ask, what is this vow, this nadr, in reality? The common idea is, if my task is accomplished, then I will do this. If not, then there is no question of doing it. But can such a conditional bargain be made with God? He says clearly, if you act in this way, then this result will follow. If you do not, then it will not. His word is straightforward, because he does not require any offering in return. So what is nadr? It is not a bargain or deferred payment. The Quran clarifies, وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن نَفَقَةٍ, whatever wealth you spend, أَوْ نَذَرْتُم مِّن نَذْرٍ, or whatever vow you make.
Here, nadr means a voluntary gift or offering given in extraordinary circumstances from one's own will. It is not about money or coins as a transaction, but about a sincere act of devotion offered freely. See how clearly the matter is explained. The Quran first said, whatever you spend from your wealth, or whatever vow you make in this way. In our society, vows are almost always tied to money, and that is the first mistake. Now let us see what nadr really means.
One example is that with a certain level of income, a fixed amount of income tax must be paid. That is legally obligatory. But when a flood comes, an accident occurs, or war breaks out, the government appeals. What voluntary contribution can you give? Obligations are what must be paid by law. Beyond that, what is given voluntarily is called sadaqah. The Quran mentions these sadaqats. These are offerings given in times of emergency, not legally required, but given freely. For instance, if a dam breaks and a flood approaches, wealthy villagers quickly gather money to buy sand, soil, lime, and bricks to repair it. Those without money bring tools, spades, baskets, and rush to dig earth, carry it, and pile it up. They contribute manual labor. Remember, none of this was legally imposed upon them. It was voluntary, an act of devotion and responsibility in extraordinary circumstances. This is the true meaning of nadr in the Quran, not a bargain or deferred payment, but a voluntary offering in times of need. Nadr refers to something that is not legally obligatory upon you, but which you impose upon yourself as a duty, saying, I will do this. In our charitable associations, for example, people pledge that they will give a certain percentage of their income every month. These are not legal obligations, they are self-imposed commitments. According to the Quran, every act that is not part of obligatory duties but is voluntarily undertaken in anticipation of a possible need or danger falls under nadr. Its root carries the sense of taking responsibility in uncertain circumstances, even though it has not been commanded by law. One says, I will perform this duty.
These voluntary duties, divided among people, I will do this, you will do that, are called nadr, and this is nadr. The Quran describes the believer's quality in this way. Al-nadartum min nadrin, 270. They impose such duties upon themselves and fulfill their promises. Generally, these are not in the form of money, but in the form of service, effort, and labor. That is why after saying, وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن نَفَقَةٍ, 270, the Quran adds, Al-nadartum min nadrin, 270. The reasoning becomes clear when we look at how the Quran describes the hypocrites. It says, الَّذِينَ يَلْمِزُونَ الْمُطَّوِّعِينَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ فِي الصَّدَقَاتِ, 979. Among the believers, there are those who voluntarily give in charity, and the hypocrites mock them, cast suspicion on their intentions, and spread strange accusations about them. The Quran continues, وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ, 979. Those who do not have money to give, إِلَّا جُهْدَهُمْ, but they can contribute their effort and labor. When such people come forward, the hypocrites, فَيَسْخَرُونَ مِنْهُمْ, they ridicule them, saying mockingly, Look, here come the ones carrying baskets. The Quran describes the state of the hypocrites in striking terms. They accuse those who give, saying, Where did they suddenly get all this from? Surely they must be giving out of some hidden gain. This is their attitude towards sincere contributors. Then there is another group, those who do not have wealth to give, but who come forward with juhdahum, their effort and labor. They present themselves with their hard work, their sweat, their baskets and tools, ready to serve. Yet the hypocrites mock them too. فَيَسْخَرُونَ مِنْهُمْ, they ridicule them, saying, Look at these people, carrying baskets, pretending to establish a system.
This is the Quran's explanation of وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن نَفَقَةٍ أَوْ نَذَرْتُم مِّن نَذْرٍ, 270. Whatever you spend in wealth, or whatever vow you fulfill through effort and service, Allah knows it. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُهُ, 270. Nothing is hidden from him. And then comes the warning, وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ, 270. The word zalim here is profound. In Arabic, zom means placing something where it does not belong. These are people who may give, but not in the right place, not for the right purpose. They misuse their giving, and thus they are zalimin. Such people will find no helpers, no friends, no intercessors when the time comes. Their giving will not save them because it was not aligned with the true purpose of establishing God's system. This is the very point I mentioned earlier.
These people will come on the day of judgment and say, "We too gave, so now we demand our reward from God." The Quran responds, "Avhabtum tayyibatikum fi hayatikum wad-dunya." You already consumed your rewards in the life of this world. Whether it was the ruler's pleasure, the satisfaction of your ego, or any worldly desire you sought, you received it then and there. The Quran makes it clear, we do not wrong anyone, but you demanded your price in this world, and you were paid in full. Now you have no share left in the hereafter. That is why it says, وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ 270. The wrongdoers, those who gave but not for the right purpose, who misplaced their deeds, will have no helpers, no supporters, no intercessors. My dear brothers, with this we have reached verse 270 of Surah Al-Baqarah. From verse 271 onward, we will continue in the next lesson. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ.